Hello, I'm Tylah Tully, and today I'm joined by Aroa Biosurgery Senior Medical Science Liaison, Dr Brandon Bosque. Brandon, Aroa has now published 100 peer-reviewed studies supporting the efficacy of its ECM technology. How important is strong clinical evidence in driving uptake of your technology?
Yeah, Tyler. I mean, that's a fantastic achievement. It really is. It's a testament to the technology itself, having reproducible results, consistency of outcomes, and the versatility of the types of indications and applications and usages of the Aroa ECM lends itself to being able to achieve 100 publications. And it's really a testament to Aroa themselves for having such a steadfast commitment to clinical evidence because, as we know, unfortunately, science takes a long time, and good, sound science takes potentially years to execute, scope, and develop these studies. So Aroa kind of stuck through it and really made sure that their technologies and their products are supported by clinical evidence. And, to your second question, clinical evidence is really the engine that makes medical innovation a reality. Without sound scientific evidence, your product, your company, your treatments are just hypothetical. It's just an idea. So for medical innovation to reach the masses, having clinical evidence in the peer-reviewed literature is essential to gaining market access, adoption, visibility. So like any industry, evidence of your technologies being effective and efficient builds trust with your audience, which will ultimately drive widespread usage.
And the latest study uses real-world evidence to assess endoform in diabetic foot ulcers. What is real-world evidence and why is it valuable in wound care?
Absolutely, Tyler. And that's really an important question when thinking about clinical evidence as a whole. So, the classic clinical research design to test efficacy of a product really hones in on that word control. So, it's a randomized control trial. That's kind of the mainstay of clinical research. But by design, randomized control trials are just that. They control all the variables to make sure that study is really lending to treatment A or whatever they're testing is the reason or cause of that outcome. But by that same token, what makes it a very strong clinical study also is a little bit of a drawback because you are excluding patients from being enrolled in that study that might have diabetes, that might have kidney disease, they might be of advanced age, they might have cancer. And that would help to eliminate those confounding variables. But the problem is in real clinical practice, the patients that we see, unfortunately, they have diabetes, they have kidney disease, they have cancer, they tend to be a little bit older. So the results of those classic randomized controlled trials may not reflect the real world population. So that's where real world evidence studies come into play. These have been around for a while, but mainly getting steam now because clinicians and surgeons and doctors are starving for data that reflects the patients that they're trying to heal and not excluding those patients from clinical trials. It makes it more adaptable to read a publication and alter or adjust the way you're practicing because the patients in the study look like the patients you're trying to heal.
So how does Endoform compare to the collagen ORC comparator used in the study, and what do these differences mean for patients and clinicians?
Yeah, Tyler, another really important question. So, Endoform, as we mentioned before, is part of that Aroa ECM technology. So, taking a step back and understanding how these two products are different, we have to understand and know what an ECM is. So, ECM stands for extracellular matrix. So, we know all of our skin, our tissue, our organs for humans as well as animals are made up of cells, but it's not just cells. The space between those cells are made up of the extracellular matrix. And these are proteins and molecules that make up the framework and scaffold to support and physically house all of our cells. So this ECM is missing when you have a wound. Quite literally, a hunk of flesh is missing, unfortunately, when you have a wound. So the cells and the ECM is missing. Aroa developed this proprietary method to take an intact, native, natural extracellular matrix from sheep that would otherwise be a waste product as part of the food trade, and they had this proprietary way to create this medical product by taking away all the things we don't want, like sheep cells, and keeping this ECM to help be a scaffold to heal new tissue in a wound. By contrast, the collagen ORC product is exactly that: collagen, type 1 collagen, and oxidized regenerated cellulose. So it's basically synthetic cellulose. They take just type 1 collagen, and that's reconstituted, so it's taken out of its natural form and given the cellulose to give it some strength. But our ECM is made up not just of type 1 collagen, but it's made of over 24 different types of collagen, including and hundreds of other proteins as well. Those same proteins are found in the Aroa ECM. So it's giving the body a true scaffold versus just one ingredient of our own tissue. So I guess how the next question would be then, okay, well, if these products are so different, and you would think that an intact ECM would inherently be better than just one ingredient in that ECM, why are you studying them together? And really, the answer to that is access. If I'm a wounds physician, which I am, these two products are basically on the same shelf together. They have the same indications, the same access, the same usages. So I would have, in theory, reach for my Endoform or reach for collagen ORC. So they have the same access point. That's why they're being studied, but they're very different composition wise. So this study helps to validate that, yes, an intact ECM like Endoform is a superior medical device than just the type 1 collagen found in collagen ORC.
The study also looks at venous leg ulcers. Can you tell us more about these wounds, the patients affected, and why they're so challenging to treat?
Yeah, absolutely, Tyler. So, unfortunately, especially in the U.S. where I'm based, and a big market share for Aroa, but all over the world, venous leg ulcers are very, very common. So, unfortunately, these are folks. These venous leg ulcers affect people of all ages, but the common denominator are people that have problems with their veins. So you might see it manifesting as varicose veins, spider veins, or just a lot of chronic swelling in their legs. And with those chronic vein problems, the skin starts to break down into these ulcer or wounds. They're painful. They can drain a lot. They can smell. So it really affects the psychology of these patients. They get really upset having them. They're upset that they rely on their family members to be their caregivers. They're upset if they're still of working age that they can't work. And if they do work, I've seen patients where there's so much drainage that their pants are getting saturated. It might smell. So there's a major quality of life issue for these patients. And the studies have shown that only 40% of venous leg ulcers are healed within 3 months. So they're very challenging to heal. They're very painful and embarrassing for patients. And they're very common problems. So venous leg ulcers are a hot topic in the regenerative tissue space, especially in med tech.
So if you can heal wounds even a week faster, what kind of impact does that have both for patients and for the healthcare system?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, speaking from as a physician myself, or even thinking as patients who always tell us about their lives in these wound clinics. That's part of what I love what we do. They say, again, any day sooner that they are healed improves their mentality. It improves their quality of life. It gets them back to doing what they want to do. It gives their family members back their lives. And it's also a cost element: fewer bandages, fewer dressing changes, fewer trips to the wound clinic or doctor's office. So whether it's a week or what we've found in this study presently, up to 8.5 weeks of faster healing time utilizing the Endoform product versus collagen ORC, that's monumental for patients, and it can really impact their pocketbook as well as their psyche and overall their health.
Brandon, thanks so much for your time today and for all your insights.
I appreciate you, Tyler. Thank you so much.